this video is going to last. I'm sure I might have to make more than part one, part two. Hopefully not more than that. I hope not. But so this testimony kind of starts when I was about 13 years old, when I was in my bedroom and I heard my dad. He was outside doing yard work, and he called me, and his voice was like, get out here quick. There's something out here. There's something that you've got to see. And so I ran out to the backyard, and my dad was looking at these three orange lights in the sky, and it looked like they were playing tag. They were chasing each other around really fast. I mean, it almost looked like how bees would be, how they can really fly around really fast. But of course, these were bigger than bees, and they were lights. And this was in probably early evening time, and they were chasing each other around. There was three of them, and like two of them would be chasing one, and then the one that was being chased and another one would chase another, and then they would zip up to the sky and disappear, and then they'd come back down, and they weren't very far from us. I mean, they were probably like 30 yards. And my dad had seen them when they flew over his head, so I didn't see them when they flew over our head, but over his head I didn't see them. He said that they looked metallic. And by the way, this isn't about aliens, it's about Jesus. Anyway, so, and also I wasn't raised religious at all. I did have close cousins. My dad would drop me off when he'd go to work with my cousins, and I had four cousins and my aunt who would watch me. And one of my cousins was around my age, and so we became really good friends. And I would have to. They were Catholic at the time. They've since switched to. I think they go to a non-denominational, is what they do. Except for my uncle, he did stay in the Catholic Church. So we would go to midnight mass and this, and I would always ask questions. I'm like, what is this? Kids are supposed to be in bed at this time. Why are we out? I've always been very sensitive, and so I always question and ask things like, why is there altar boys? And there's one priest, and this is who would be in this room with the door open. He'd be peeking and looking at me. I was probably, I don't know, 7, 6. And so I would ask my cousin. I would be like, why is he staring at me? What's he doing? And so I named the guy Peekaboo Priest. and that was an inside joke that we had for a long time, Peekaboo Priest. But that didn't really get me to want to go to church very much. I went to Sunday school. In fact, me and my stepmother got into a terrible car accident when I was 6. And she was wearing seatbelt, and she actually her legs went into the van, and the glass went all over her. I was just sitting in the front seat with her with no seatbelt, and it was like somebody was holding me in there. And as soon as the crash was over, it looked like Carrie, the movie Carrie. There was blood just coming down, and she was screaming, and she looked over at me because she probably thought I was dead, not a scratch. And then my door opens, and here's this woman from Sunday school who got me out of the van and put me in the back. She had an El Camino, and it wasn't an El Camino, sorry, it was a station wagon. And she put me in the back of that. She kept telling me, get down, stay down. And I wanted to see the van, and I did see it. It was terrible. It was demolished, excuse me. And so yeah, we saw these lights and stuff, and me and my dad, we didn't really talk about it much. I didn't think about it much. I put the experience in my pocket, saved it. Thought about it every once in a while. Wow, wasn't that kind of strange? Had a lot of other experiences happen. I had a really close friend who he fell asleep at the wheel, and he died real tragically. It's a pretty grotesque story, actually. And he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he was trying to tell me about uh, their beliefs and all this stuff. Before he had passed, he probably got into Jehovah's Witness the last 3 years of his life, or two. And I just thought it was strange, and I didn't know what to think of religion. um, I always did, though. I prayed every night, and I think I prayed for my meals, and I did it in the typical Catholic Father, Son, Holy Spirit thing. um, and it was a real quick prayer. It didn't mean much, but I always just had this hunch that Jesus, I think Jesus is real, and I always had this feeling that everything I did, I was being watched. Like I said, I'm a very sensitive person, and I can tell what people are, their emotions and stuff. I can feel them. So I always knew somebody was watching, God or whoever, and I always did respect Jesus. I didn't know, I didn't know nothing about the Bible. Around the time that my friend passed away, I came to work one day. This was in 2001, and I came to work, and I would go to a home where three developmentally disabled adults lived, and I would make their dinners and stuff like that, and watch them, help them. And I come to work one day, and I'd get there before that they would get dropped off by Goodwill where they worked, and they'd get dropped off on the bus. Well, I'd come early, to get stuff going and ready for them. So I'd come to work, and there's this gift for me, and there's nothing, doesn't say it's from anybody, just to Travis. And I opened it up, and it was a Bible, and it had my name right here. It had my name inscribed on here, and I just thought it was really cool. I love it. It's actually an NIV, and I'll talk more about that. And I thought, wow, this is interesting, because my friend just passed away, and when we went to his funeral, his I don't know what they call Jehovah's Witnesses, preachers. I guess they're still preachers. I don't know. He said, well, my friend's name was Jeremiah. He said Jeremiah is in darkness now, because he had taken a anti-anxiety medication. We would drink a lot, and we smoked pot, and he took that pill, and that's what happened to him. So in the religion of Jehovah's Witness, I don't know if it's true, he was in, I don't know, outer darkness or in darkness. I don't know. That's what he said, though. And I remember I had my cousin with me, and she was a Catholic. This was another cousin, but it was the same family that I stayed with when I was younger. And it really threw her off. And I remember we went back to my house, and she just wouldn't stop. I mean, she was like, it really affected her. It really bothered her. And she didn't even really know my friend. And I didn't know what to think. But here I come to my job, and here's this book, this Bible book. And so I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna give this a try. I was 30, 28, 29, 30. And so I begin at the very beginning, and I read the entire Bible. And it was like reading Chinese. There might have been I'm sure, I remember when I would read it, it would get me to think, it would get me to, I never really felt the Lord's presence or anything when I read it, which is, I don't understand that. So anyway, during this time, in this house that I worked in, I'd get these weird feelings. And there was a lot of people that worked there, mostly females, and they were different. And there was a lot going on there uh, with them, not me. And so, I could just feel a presence in that place. And there was. Uh, One of the men that I took care of, he's just a happy-go-lucky guy. I worked there for 4 years. I knew these guys. This was probably 3 years into working there, and I knew these guys. And this man, he's no longer on the here anymore. He was just a happy guy, and he came and he sat on my lap, and he loved to unload the dishwasher. So, and there was dishes that just got done, and he said, "Want to go unload the dishwasher?" His name was John. And I go, "Yeah, John, let's go, let's go do that." So we get up and we run and we go into the kitchen. Just as we get in there, I'm opening up the dishwasher and this voice comes out of John, and this isn't John. And it shocked me. It really surprised me. And what he said was, "I'll try to emulate it the best I can. This is going to sound really ridiculous. I don't care though." It goes, "You're going to hell." Okay, now take that times about 100 million. No movie or Hollywood could uh, uh, you know no movie could come close to emanating this. This was not even human. And so I go, "What did you say, John?" "John don't know." I'd asked other people. I said, "Has John ever, no, 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 no." It wasn't John. It was a demon that saw me coming to work an hour early every day and sitting there and reading the Bible there. And that's what I was doing when I read the Bible. I'd actually come to work an hour early, and I would read that Bible. And I knew I could just feel something was in there, more than one, but yeah. So I just let that go. No big deal, right? And went on with my sinful life. I was living with this girl. I was actually divorced. Uh, Divorced for good reason. Uh, and here I am now living with this girl. And I didn't know what the heck was going on. I remember sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and go, I would just wake up and go, "I'm going to cease to exist someday." And that would I would panic as if that would really be terrible, as if that would be worse than going to hell. Now, the first thing that I ever heard about when it came to the Bible when I was little was my aunt. Like I was telling you, I was there a lot with my cousins. The first introduction to scripture I ever had was her reading Revelations, and that didn't make me want to go to church. It really scared me away from it. I just thought, if this is the way, you know, I always thought it was just religion, and I considered, Catholic doctrine and all that religion for certain. Worse than that even, but I don't judge anybody for that at all. Like I said, I still have an uncle that is, and I love him so much. I mean, we talk about Jesus all the time. So, um, anyway, so I get into drinking and smoking pot. The relationship with that girl didn't work. I had a failed marriage. Every relationship I ever had with a woman was terrible. I wasn't the best either. I wasn't, you know. Uh, so I I would come home and in the evening at night I worked in the evening and stare out into the darkness and just I mean staring out in the darkness and just saying I'm missing out on something. I'm missing out on what am I supposed to be doing? What am I here for? Why am I here? And I sunk into a deep dark depression, and uh, I only drank on like once a week on my Saturday on my day off, but I would drink enough for that whole week on that one night. I would just drink a ton. I was a really big guy then. I worked out like ridiculous amount of hours, 6 days a week, and all this, and real vain. And so I got into that, and then it got worse, and I got into pills. And during this time, I'm just starting to get into pills, and I'd been in some bands and stuff before this. So I sang. I was a singer, and I taught myself to play guitar, and I quit these bands because I got tired of dealing with the other bandmates, and I began to have some experiences. Once I was sitting there playing my guitar, and something tapped me on the back, and there was nothing there. Okay. Then another time I'm sitting on my bed and I can feel something behind me. I know something's behind me, and I turn around and I look, and the curtain raises up. Not like one of these, but a curtain raised up and just held there. It was one of those drapes, and it just raised all the way up and just held there. And I'm like, and I even called a friend. I'm like, man, and there was all kinds of stuff going on, and I didn't know what I thought they were ghosts, is what I thought, and so I was into ghosts now. Around 2013, I started getting these strange, not audible or anything, just this feeling in me saying, "Go outside, go out in the front yard," and it'd be like 12 at night, 1 in the morning, 12 in the morning. Go outside and look up in the sky and wait. And so I'd go out there, looking up in the sky, wait, like, what the heck am I waiting for? Is this gonna be another alien? So nothing showed up, thank God. So that's nothing. Wait till you hear. And so my my drug use really took off, and I was taking prescriptions of oxycodone. I was taking methadone. I was taking anything, like any sort of opiate that I could get my hands on and buy. I purchased it, and that's where most all my money went to. I eventually had to move out of my apartment and move in back with my dad because of my drug habit. And I lied to him, of course. I didn't tell him. And it got really dark and bad. And then I stepped it up and became IV drug user. And then, of course, what comes after pills? Heroin. And while all this is going on, I'm battling this addiction. I'm going from sick to OD to sick to OD. I OD'd a whole bunch of times. I mean, a whole bunch of times. And I don't know how I made it. I mean, I know now it was Jesus. He allowed me to live. I remember even before all this, when I would drink hard alcohol, and I would get so drunk that if I had passed out people who would try to move me or touch me or anything like that, I'd freak out on them. I mean, I would freak out. And there was a time once where I ended up at some party. I mean, I was with my friends. I was really wild, and I would just ditch my friends and go find a party, strangers, and go off with them, and end up at who knows where. And I was at this party, and next thing I know, I had to go outside to throw up, and they put me in the back of a truck, and next thing I know, I'm in a park, and it was snowing, and somebody called the police, and like I wouldn't even let the police touch me. But this was another time where I was living in this apartment, and I was really, really drunk, off hard alcohol again, and the snow was up to my knees, and I figured I'm gonna go on a snow walk, and this place where I went out to, it's a rock quarry, and there's nothing out there, nothing. There's a road that leads out, and you just go, and there's nobody out there. This was late, late at night, and I went out there, and I walked, and I walked, and I walked until I was like, I'm not gonna make it home. I'm not gonna make it home. So I turn around. I'm not even close to home. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to fall right about over here. I'm going to fall into the snow. Nobody's going to see me. This is where I'm going to, be found once the snow goes away. So I remember my last, or what I thought was my last thing I'd see, and that was just all white as I fall into the snow. This was Christmas Eve. I wake up Christmas morning in my apartment on a couch. Family left. Everybody's gone doing Christmas. And I'm like, no way, no. Because there's no way I could have made it. I'm like, could somebody have found me or saw me? I'm like, I'm going to go look. I run out there. I go out to the road where it is. And there's just one set of tracks going out there. Nothing coming back. So stuff like that happened with me all the time. Everybody thought I was going to die all the time. My dad even said, it was just a known thing that I was going to die soon, and well before my dad, and that's the way it is. And my dad sat around waiting for the call. And by the way, this isn't bragging at all. This is stupidity. Always had to learn the hard way. I don't know if this thing's going to give me more than 30 minutes. I don't know. We'll see, huh? So, okay, so I'm into heroin. It got really dark. I OD'd a million times. Never went to the hospital once. And then I got into... I needed to quit heroin, and the people that I would get heroin from, they also did meth, and I never did it because I just hated it and I couldn't stand it. And so this woman, one night, she goes, I'm going to give you a $20 shot of meth. I'm like, all right. So I took this stupid meth, and it was, I got a light bulb on my head thinking, this is how I'm going to quit heroin. Good idea, huh? Yeah, real good idea. So I used that, and I succeeded. I got off heroin. Ooh, good job. And now I got another problem. And this time, oh man, that stuff turns you into a monster. And so I ended up homeless. Crazy stuff was going on. I'm not even talking about my teen. My life has been pretty nuts anyway. There's a lot here that I'm skipping. I'm just trying to get to what I'm trying to get to. And so I'm homeless. I'm in and out of jail for stupid things like no trespassing. One time I just wanted a place to sleep, so I went into a store, grabbed a candy bar, went up to the counter, and I said, I'm gonna be stealing this. You can call the police on me. So a cop walks in right as I do that, and I start going outside, and the cop walks in, and they tell the cop, and he yells at me, he goes, "Put that candy bar back." So I go put it back, and he said, "I'm not going to arrest you. I live in a town where there's 3 cities," and he said, I'm a cop from the other city, so. And I remember I like went up to the top of the train tracks, and I was like this, and he was on a motorcycle, and he just drives around, didn't even look at me. And so um, I end up selling my truck, and I sold a lot of cars for drugs, and I end up getting this motel. Well, one of the places that I worked at, I don't know if this video is going to cut off or not or what, but one of the places that I worked at, there was a woman there that was a nurse, and we we were good friends. We got along really really good. Nobody else seemed to really get along with her. She was really kind of grumpy to everybody, and I would just help her out, and I always, we ate all the time together. There was nothing romantic. There was nothing anything like that. And so I knew her life, and she had a daughter, and I knew all about it and what was going on. And her daughter was having problems with drugs. I wasn't doing drugs at the time when I met her. So this is probably 6 years later, and she had cancer, and she was going through. She got done with chemo, and actually this is two testimonies. This is mine and hers, and I am the only one who can tell hers. Whoops, sorry. And so, yeah, so, um, anyway, I'm in contact with her, and I'll be honest, and this is so sad. I was in contact with her because I knew her daughter did drugs, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just get her daughter to like me and get drugs. And so um, I ended up here one day. Yeah, I ended up here. That's where I'm at right now. This was our apartment, and this is where it all happened. And I love this place. This place, I'll never forget this apartment. Anyway, in the 4 years that I've been in this apartment, more has happened to me than has happened in my entire life. So I come over here and I see what's going on, and I'm really appalled by it. And here I'm a drug addict, but her daughter wasn't helping her. Here she was. I mean, she could barely lift a finger, and she had to go shopping and stuff. She had to do everything. And her daughter was just here with these people doing drugs. I've never really, and I'm not saying I'm better or good, I'm just really picky about who I hang out with. And I never seemed to really get along with other drug addicts, probably because I didn't want to share. But all my friends were sober. And so, I was just sickened by what I saw when I got here. But of course, that didn't stop me from pretty much using the situation to help my drug addiction. And so, yeah, and I didn't really get that much drugs from her because she didn't have that much money. I mean, I was able to sell things that I had and get more drugs and stuff, but she was out of control. Her daughter was out of control. And so uh, I was back and forth, and like I said, first I rented a motel that's just down the street here, and I was doing meth, and that wasn't working good for me.